Welcome to Veil Walkers, Episode 2. Tonight, we delve into the shadows of Blackthorn Manor, a place where restless spirits roam and secrets fester. Be warned, what lies within these walls is not for the faint of heart. As Clara and Evelyn step into the unknown, so too will you. Let the darkness guide you. Clara and Evelyn sat at their usual booth in the diner, the warm scent of coffee and fried food doing little to ease the tension between them. Evelyn set down the newspaper she'd been reading and slid it across the table toward Clara. "Look at this," she said, tapping the headline with a finger. "Local couple found dead in historic Blackthorn Manor." Clara glanced at the article, her brow furrowing. "Found in the parlor. Both dead. No forced entry. No wounds." She looked up, and no explanation. "Sounds like our kind of thing." Evelyn nodded. "I've been reading up on the place. Blackthorn Manor has been empty for decades. The Fletchers were the first people to live there in years, and now..." She trailed off, her expression darkening. "People in town are saying it's cursed." As if on cue, their waitress approached, her hands nervously twisting her apron. "You two are the ones that deal with strange things, right?" she asked hesitantly. Clara raised an eyebrow. "Depends on what you mean by strange." The waitress leaned in, lowering her voice. "Blackthorn Manor. Everyone in Greystone knows there's something wrong with that place. The Fletchers didn't listen, and now look what happened. Lights in the windows, sounds at night. It's come alive again." Clara exchanged a look with Evelyn, who was already pulling out her journal. "Sounds like our kind of job," Evelyn said with a faint smile. The drive to Blackthorn Manor was long and winding, the narrow road flanked by ancient oaks that twisted skyward like skeletal hands. Clara gripped the wheel tightly, her eyes fixed on the faint outline of the mansion in the distance. The house seemed to loom larger with every mile, its silhouette jagged against the storm-gray sky. Evelyn sat beside her, flipping through the old leather-bound book she carried everywhere. "Blackthorn Manor," she murmured, tracing her finger over the faded ink. "Built in 1873. The last known owners, the Fletchers, moved in 6 months ago. They were found dead in the parlor 2 weeks later. No sign of forced entry, no physical wounds. Just gone." "Heart failure," Clara muttered, her voice tinged with skepticism. "That's what the report said." Evelyn snapped the book shut. "Both of them? At the same time? In the same room? That's no coincidence, Clara." Clara didn't respond. Instead, she glanced at the map pinned to the dashboard. "This place and the Witch's Cave. They're not far from each other. You think it's connected?" Evelyn frowned, tapping her fingers on the journal. "It's possible. That symbol we found in the cave, it's ancient, and it represents something bigger. But I can't shake the feeling we're missing something." Clara nodded, her grip tightening on the wheel. "We'll figure it out, one step at a time." As they drove, the trees seemed to close in around them, their twisted branches forming a tunnel of shadows. Neither of them noticed the faint glow of red-yellow eyes watching them from the darkness, following their progress with an unblinking stare. The door creaked open with an almost human groan, revealing a grand but decayed interior. Dust motes floated in the air, illuminated by the pale light streaming through cracks in the boarded-up windows. The air was heavy with the scent of mildew and something metallic like rust or blood. "Lovely," Clara said dryly, sweeping her flashlight across the foyer. A massive chandelier hung precariously above, its crystals coated in grime. Portraits lined the walls, their subjects' faces blurred and smudged as if the years had tried to erase them. Evelyn shivered, clutching her journal. "There's something here. I can feel it." Clara nodded. She felt it too, a weight in the air, pressing down on her chest. "Where did they find the bodies?" "The parlor," Evelyn replied, pointing to a door on the left. As they entered the room, the temperature plummeted. Clara's breath fogged in the air, and the faint sound of a piano playing drifted through the room. She swept her flashlight toward the corner, where a dusty grand piano sat. The keys moved on their own, the haunting melody filling the space. "Classic," Clara muttered. "Creepy music. Always a nice touch." Evelyn ignored her, stepping closer to the piano. She traced a symbol in the air, muttering an incantation under her breath. The music stopped abruptly, leaving an echoing silence. Before they could react, a cold wind whipped through the room, slamming the door shut. The chandelier above swayed dangerously, its crystals clinking like brittle bones. "Clara," Evelyn said, her voice trembling, "we're not alone." The air grew heavy, almost suffocating, as a figure materialized near the fireplace. It was a man dressed in an old-fashioned suit, his face gaunt and pale. His eyes glowed faintly, and when he opened his mouth, no words came out, just a guttural, rasping sound that made Clara's skin crawl. "Why are you here?" the ghost finally whispered, his voice like dead leaves scraping across stone. Clara stepped forward, her flashlight steady. "We're here to find out what happened to the Fletchers." "Why are you haunting this place?" The ghost's form flickered, his face contorting with anger. "They took what wasn't theirs," he hissed. "This house, it's mine." Evelyn quickly flipped through her journal, her fingers trembling. "Clara, he's bound here. We need to find what's anchoring him." "Any ideas?" Clara asked, keeping her eyes on the ghost as it advanced toward them. "Something personal," Evelyn said. "An object, maybe. We need to find it and destroy it." As the ghost lunged toward them, Clara was suddenly overwhelmed by a memory. She was 6 years old, sitting in her grandmother's living room. The air had been cold, much like this, and she'd seen a man standing by the window, a man no one else could see. He'd smiled at her, his face twisted and wrong. It was the first time she'd seen a ghost. "Clara." Evelyn's voice snapped her back to the present. The ghost was inches away, its hollow eyes staring into hers. Clara raised her flashlight, the beam cutting through the ghost's form. "Where's the anchor?" she shouted. Evelyn scanned the room, her gaze landing on a dusty pocket watch sitting on the mantel. "There." Clara didn't hesitate. She lunged for the watch, grabbing it just as the ghost let out a deafening wail. The walls trembled, and the air seemed to vibrate with energy. "Destroy it," Evelyn yelled. Clara threw the watch to the ground, shattering it under her boot. The ghost let out one final piercing scream before dissolving into mist. The room fell silent, the oppressive weight lifting instantly. Outside, the storm had cleared, and the first rays of dawn lit up the manor's crumbling facade. Clara and Evelyn stood on the front steps, both exhausted but relieved. "Another restless spirit put to rest," Clara said, brushing dust off her jacket. Evelyn nodded, but her expression was grim. "Clara, this is happening more often. The veil between our world and theirs. It's thinning." Clara sighed, unlocking the car door. "And something or someone is trying to make it worse." As they drove away from the manor, the tension lingered in the air. Evelyn flipped through her journal, reviewing the clues they gathered from the witch's cave and the manor. "What if we're missing something?" she murmured. "The symbol, the connection. There has to be more." Clara glanced at her. "We'll figure it out. But for now, let's get some rest." The car disappeared down the winding road, leaving the manor behind. Unseen in the shadows of the trees, a figure watched them go. Its eyes glowed red-yellow, unblinking as it melted back into the darkness.
Another night, another battle won. But for Clara and Evelyn, the war against the supernatural never truly ends. The shadows hold more secrets, and more innocent lives hang in the balance. As they drove into the rising sun, they braced themselves for the next case, knowing the darkness was always one step behind. If you're ready to join Clara and Evelyn on their journey into the heart of the unknown, like this video, subscribe to Veil of Dark Whispers, and hit the notification bell. Together we'll uncover what lurks in the dark and fight to keep the light alive.